everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Living the Sweet Life. I'm your host, TJ Sweet, and on this podcast, we are committed to helping you go from where you are to where you want to be, no matter what area of your life. And we're going to help you do that by helping you reshape your mindset, live with intention, and look at the world through a grateful lens. And this week, it's going to be a lot about living with intention. But before we dive too far in, I want to, say thank you for committing to this podcast every week and for listening to it every week, whether you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or you're watching on YouTube. We wanted to provide this in as many ways as possible for you to hit you in a way that is meaningful for you. So first of all, go ahead and hit that time. Now's the time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can get notifications when these episodes come out every Monday. As you know, every Mindset Monday. So when I dive into this topic this week, it's going to probably strike a chord with a lot of you in a lot of different ways, because if I were to go back over the last 11 years of me doing this, of coaching and speaking and, trying to make a difference in the world with some positive messages, if I could go back to say what changed, what was probably the most significant thing that I worked on that helped me go from where I was to where I am now, because I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm making progress. I would have to say it's this idea and this commitment to a deeper sense of self-awareness. I was giving so much credit to my environment, to the people I was around, to external factors that were then controlling how I thought and how I acted and what I thought was possible and so on and so forth. But when you really kind of take better inventory of your own thoughts and your own feelings and maybe your own triggers and your own emotions, once you start to value them well enough and more, you start to give more effort and attention to how you're feeling and how that matters. So when I, kind of stop and think about what is the actual power of self-awareness and a deep sense of self-awareness, I want to run through three things. Like I said, this is probably the catalyst that changed everything for me about how I want to make a difference in the world and who I am as a person and how I show up for the people around me. Also, how I take care of myself. So the first thing I want to talk about is probably the biggest and most important thing, but it's this full belief that self-awareness fosters a better decision-making process. Because when you start to focus on your strengths and your weaknesses and your emotional triggers, it allows you to really kind of be intentional about your decisions instead of reacting to life and responding to life more. But you also start to pay attention to yourself more than you pay attention to others. These days, it's a very social world, but it can also be a world rooted in comparison. Comparing your life to somebody else's, comparing who you are now to maybe who you want to be. Now, if you're not aware in that moment, that can be destructive, because what I share with you all on social media isn't every aspect of my life. Truthfully, it's the parts of my life that I want you to see. It's this idea of, trying to give you the best of me instead of just all of me. Now, I have a really small circle of friends and family and people that I love and people that I'm super, super grateful for. I have a super small circle that kind of see all of me, right? But I had to kind of get over this idea of trying to put on a front for you all, because that's not what I'm trying to do on social media. I'm just trying to add the most value. Now, I'm aware that, and we've talked about this before, that sometimes maybe showing different sides would create less of a gap between your life and mine. Because I say this all the time, and it's not meant to knock myself down. It's just meant to really, keep myself humble. I'm just an ordinary guy that has found his purpose and found gratitude in his life, and I'm just trying to make a difference in the world. And the reason why I say that is because I see every chapter of my life. And so whenever I'm going through this, this idea of self-awareness, it really does help me make decisions based on who I am, what I am, and what kind of difference I want to make in the world. But if you're not sure of who you are and the values and the purpose, you can kind of start making decisions without intention. Sometimes you can make a decision that actually counteracts another decision that you want to make. But whenever you start to pay attention to more about who you are, and not in a kind of a not in a conceited kind of self-righteous way, but whenever you actually try to pay attention to who you are, it prevents you from the desire to compare yourself to other people. And truthfully, I think that's probably one of the biggest things in society these days is people are stuck on comparing their life to somebody else. But the only reason why they're doing that is because they don't know themselves well enough. And we look at other people to affirm who we are, or try to knock other people down because we're not sure who we are. So if you really want to get over this idea of comparison, start to pay attention to more about who you are, and you'll stop looking for more validation by comparing yourself to other people. Now, this idea of self-awareness, it can be uncomfortable, right? Because you start to really own who you are. But what it can do, the power of self-awareness, when it's something intentional and it's something that you actually are kind of working on with intention, it inspires this trust of yourself. So when you start to recognize who you are and the gifts you have and the work ethic you have and the discipline you have, you start to trust yourself, and you start to keep more promises to yourself, and you learn to understand why you're making decisions, why you have the goals you have, why you read the things you read, why you eat the things you eat, you drink what you drink. Maybe you read or you pay attention to, you watch the news, whatever it is. Everything that we do is probably out of some sort of habit. But if we're not paying attention to who we are and how we're actually feeling and our own emotions, we can make some decisions that maybe aren't the best for us. So if you're somebody who's obviously it's the new year, and over these first couple of months, everybody always has these great intentions, and they have this heightened sense of self-awareness of what they want in the beginning of the year, and then it starts to dissipate because they didn't build systems and processes, and they didn't keep promises to themselves, which then makes you think that you're somebody who can't keep promises to yourself, which is not the case. It's just a matter of you have to understand why. Why did you make the choices you make? How do you build more trust with yourself? And you think about your best friends that you have and how you learn to trust them. Do you actually trust yourself to hold yourself accountable to the things that you said that you wanted whenever your self-awareness was high? Because whenever you make new choices that don't align with the previous promise that you made to yourself, there's that self-accountability, which again, like I said, it's not always comfortable, but it's required to actually live the life that you want to be living, not the one that you think somebody else thinks you should be living. Now, the last piece of this self-awareness is really, this is probably the thing that's changed my life the most, is this deep sense of self-awareness actually has you responding to life more than reacting to it. There's going to be external factors that come in our lives all the time that can trigger us. And if you haven't healed from some things, again, just understanding what you need so that you can respond to life and not just react to it. Reacting is rarely a thoughtful. It's more of a defense response to things happening in the world. But when you're in control of you, because again, like Viktor Frankl said, the only things that nobody can take away from you is your mindset and your attitude. So when you're aware of your own mindset and your own attitude, you start to respond to life differently, respond to adversity differently, respond to other people healing and maybe, acting in a way that's not typical for them as well. You start to respond to that instead of just react. And this, typically anger is something that comes up a lot when you think about reacting. People get offended easily and, but when you have a deep sense of self-awareness, you start to really respond and realize that some people aren't trying to offend you, but you're unaware of who you are and what you feel and what your values are, so you get offended by it. Now, are there things we're going to take offense to? Absolutely. But can we curb that? Because nobody can make us feel anything without our permission, which is a really powerful sense whenever you recognize that you can't be you can't be bothered, right? You see some people who just seem like they're not bothered by anything that happens around them. And that's just because they have a deep sense of self-awareness, but also because they're trying to respond to life more than they are trying to react to it. Now, I've had some adversity over the last 2 years. I've had 5 knee surgeries on my left knee, and it's changed my life in a lot of different ways. But my idea of growth, my idea of every chapter is meant for me, and I'm being prepared for what's been prepared for me. All of that has really come from that deep sense of self-awareness of what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What do I need to do about it? Is it true? Because not everything that we think or say or feel or believe is true. Sometimes it's just in the moment. So really start to gain back control of your own self, your own mindset, your own habits, your own behaviors, because then you'll be able to live the life that you want to be living, and you'll be less inclined to compare your life to other people, or maybe even compare yourself to who you were or to who you want to be, because living in the now is probably the most important thing we can do, because that allows you to pivot in the moment and live with intention and act in a way that you'd be proud of. So as we kind of wrap up this episode, I really want to just encourage you to dig in a little bit. Study yourself more than you study other people, and give yourself some grace while you hold yourself accountable, because we have to understand why we're making the choices we're making. And if they're not helping us go to where we want to be, that's a choice you get to make, but you have to be aware about the purpose and the reasoning behind the choices you're making. We all have this power. It's just a choice away. It's a thought away. It's maybe some journaling that you need to do in your life so that you can really be proud of the life that you're living and live with intention. So as you live each day with intention, start to think about, how are you feeling? How do you want to feel? And what are some things that you can start doing to help you feel at your best? Because you deserve that. I hope this episode resonates with you. Share it with somebody. And after you start to study yourself a little bit more, maybe you'll be less threatened by seeing other people live the life that they live, because they have a better sense of who you are. And, as you know, these episodes come out every Monday, and it's important that we remind ourselves. We have reminders for these as well, that they come out every Monday. So subscribe now so you get those notifications no matter which platform you are watching or listening to this on. And I'll remind you, like I have this whole episode, but I'll also remind you, like I do at the end of every episode, that you always have the power and the choice to reshape your mindset, live with intention, and look at the world through a grateful lens. Until the next episode, never stop.